It begins with my incontinence, peeing in my pants.
I'm so glad you're so authentic because 80% of women have difficulty with stress incontinence.
At a certain point, after 6 months of not sleeping and gaining 20 pounds and feeling kind of like a shell of myself, I had a much older neighbor. She really recognized right away what I was saying and what I was going through. And she directed me to somebody who got me a prescription for HRT, which helped the first night.
Oh my God.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vonda Wright, and this is Hot for Your Health. Join us for conversations on the bleeding edge of science, health, and culture as we bring you tech innovators, thought leaders, and the movers and shakers who are transforming science fiction into your new health reality.
Welcome back to Hot for Your Health, where every week I bring you change makers, innovators, really exciting people. And this week I'm bringing you two women, founders, innovators, who I feel like I've known forever. I've probably known for a couple years, and their work has helped me tremendously. And we'll talk about that today. Co-founders and co-CEOs of Alloy Health, Anne Fulenwider and Monica Molenaar. How are you, ladies?
Great. Thanks,
We're
Vonda. Thanks
great.
for having us.
Thank you for coming on today. So, I say that I've known you forever because I feel like within the women's health, starting really with our own menopause journeys and now morphing into the whole health of a woman, we've been in the trenches together since women started rising. Why did you two come into this space from your previous careers?
Well, it really started with my health journey, which actually launched me into being an entrepreneur in the first place. I had my ovaries removed when I was 40, so earlier than most going into menopause. And I had them removed prophylactically because I was diagnosed with the BRCA gene. I come from a long line of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And I realized firsthand how hard it is to find good information, let alone treatment. And I knew what the issue was when I went into menopause, but nobody ever talked to me about menopause. It was only fertility, and I had no idea that I was going into this new phase and needed some help and support. And I really couldn't get it. It took me 5 years and five doctors and really starting Alloy to get my own treatment under control. And that experience is really why Alloy exists, so that no woman has to feel alone or uninformed again the way that I did. We really feel like we're not just building a company, we're kind of fixing a broken system one woman at a time for ourselves and everybody else that we know.
I love that approach. And are you saying to me that you went in for surgery and you came out and no one immediately offered to put a patch on you? Is that
I,
what you're saying?
that is what I'm saying. I am saying that for 6 months, I did not have a patch on me. And I mean, the fact that I'm still married, that my kids talk to me, that I was able to go to work again, is really sort of a miracle. Like I needed to, obviously, and I was very young, and I didn't have any support or anyone else that I knew who was in menopause. I didn't even know how to kind of express the words. And I was lucky enough at a certain point after 6 months of not sleeping and gaining 20 pounds and feeling kind of like a shell of myself. I had a much older neighbor, or much older. She was 15 years older, but somebody who was in menopause, 55 at the time when I was 40. And she really recognized right away what I was saying and what I was going through. And she directed me to somebody who got me a prescription for HRT, which helped the first night. I mean, it really turned my life around immediately. But it was what I was prescribed at the time was compounded. It wasn't covered by my insurance. And I entered sort of my OB said, don't take that. So I entered kind of the vortex of misinformation and lack of clarity around menopause and what the real treatments are. And that really activated me, to kind of one, keep searching, but also to cut the noise out of this for other women and to really create something that is, provides credible information, provides actionable, the ability for you to actually take action and speak directly with a doctor and have care from a doctor over a long period of time, the same doctor who can follow you through and can really sort of help you manage the menopause, and also direct access to the prescription treatments that are necessary in menopause. or necessary for, and really safe and effective for most women, because I knew from my own personal experience that at every step along that chain, there's a massive sort of drop off out of the system. You don't get good information. You go to a doctor who is unwilling or unable to help you, or you go to the pharmacist and and either, first of all, you read the black box warning about estrogen that says like you're going to die if you take this, or the pharmacist, which also happened to me, the pharmacist said you shouldn't take this, you're going to get breast cancer. And so that's a really terrible system for women. I think most people don't appreciate how terrible the status quo is out there. And so we're really trying to change that and make it accessible, affordable, without shame, easy to access a real doctor and get what you need, so that you don't have to worry about menopause anymore.
I identify with so many things you said, the words alone, the words not knowing where to go, even because I felt like, at 47, when perimenopause hit me, you think as a surgeon, I would know. I didn't know as an aging researcher that I would know. Maybe I thought I was never going to age, but it was a girlfriend. It was like your neighbor, a girlfriend, a nurse, thankfully, who told me what was going on. And she connected me with her secret doctor that we call the secret doctor. Exactly. So I'm so glad that Alloy Health is like shouting it from the rooftops. And it's so apropos because, Anne, you are a communicator by trade. You communicate information. So you must think it's really incredibly important to not make it a secret anymore. And how did that go into how you made this company?
Yeah, I mean, I do think overall the story of menopause needs to be rewritten, and that's what we're all doing, and it's working. And I think the number one benefit of that, as you allude to, is, shattering the shame. Like, just get this out in the open and make sure that people know that this is 100% normal and that there are solutions for you. And I was editor-in-chief of Marie Claire magazine when Monica and I met. And Monica had already been an entrepreneur. I had been covering entrepreneurs at Marie Claire. We did a lot of stories about female entrepreneurs, which was really empowering. My mom had recently died, which just makes you sort of a sudden heart attack, just kind of makes you rethink what you want to do with your life a little bit, or just kind of evaluate what's been going on in a larger picture. And so when Monica said, "Hey, I think I have an idea for you. Let's start a company and let's fix menopause." As crazy as it sounded, I was a magazine editor for 25 years. I was like, yes, I think that's a great idea. I'm going to jump right in, ditch this career I've had for so long. But I was really ready. And I think, my own experience of perimenopause, I didn't even know until starting this company with Monica and then meeting Dr. Sherry Malone, who became our chief medical advisor. I didn't even know what perimenopause was. And I didn't realize that, Monica and I met when I was probably around 47. And I think I had been suffering from it for a while. And it was like mood swings and lack of sleep and gaining weight and maybe a couple of regular periods, but I hadn't even really thought about that. And so when we finally started doing the research into, fixing, really, we thought we were going to, first we thought we were going to do a content site that was about nutrition, because of course, nutrition and exercise are also huge parts of menopause. But once we did the research, we realized if you're not talking to women about estrogen at this phase of their lives, then you're really doing them a disservice, at least to give them the information. And then lastly, I'll say that as a magazine editor, a storyteller, it still baffles me, even in my own other parts of our family's health journey. I just can't get over the lack of communication between like all the expertise over here. There's a lot of smart people, not enough, but there are quite a lot of smart people who know what menopause is and know what the solutions are. And there's all these women out here looking for answers. And this connective tissue, which is frankly the storytelling, there's a lot of other systemic issues that are blocking the access, but the story itself just needs to get out there. And the more we do it, I'm sure you know this, Vonda, and I've seen it happen with you when you go into a room and speak, when Monica and I go into a room, just like a living room, to introduce the idea of alloy and what menopause and perimenopause are and what the solutions are, the aha looks on everyone's faces, no matter where we are, in the center of New York City or out in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of the country, no one has heard this story. And it's just crazy because it's really having negative impact on our health.
That is exactly the reaction I get. And then you see the relief faces, because somewhere in their head, they're saying, oh my God, that's what it is. I'm actually not going crazy. Women verbalize that very line to me day after day. I'm I thought I was going crazy because
Mhm.
women sit around and talk to each other, but we're not until now. Now, this is what we talk about,
Right.
talking about perimenopause and these, you know what people say? They say, I think I'm going through the change, right? Versus I am transforming from
Yeah.
what was to the best, most authentic part of my life, right?
Yeah.
That's so what it is. It's
I
the
had this really funny moment that my dog ate my AirPods this weekend, and I think you'll relate to this. Yes, I was really annoyed, and so I had to order a new pair of AirPods. And I'll show you. This is my initial case, and it says Mama's Pods. And I was like, oh, what's the inscription? Should the inscription be? And I literally had this moment where I was like, actually, my kids are 18 and 20 now. Mama isn't really my first identity anymore. For the first time in 20 years, I'm going to change it to my own name. It's not going to be me relative to somebody else. It's going to be Monica's Pods.
That's
That's what's
great.
going to be on my thing, which was a really dramatic moment actually. Like, oh, I'm a mother, but I'm not a mother first necessarily. I have all these other things. And the more I move into this next space and my kids also move into their own space, I actually need to really embody that more of who
Yeah.
I am. And that's, I
and we
think,
get
what's
to.
really important about this time of life.
Well, and when I refer patients to you, I say to them, because they'll often say to me, I don't know where to go, or I asked and they said no. To which I say, if it were one of your children, you would keep asking until you had exhausted all avenues, right? Because we do identify in the other roles that we take on in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think what's so great about the community you've built and the community that we're all in is that we're finally admitting that it's okay to put our air mask on first, our life vest on
Mhm.
first, right? Have you
Yeah.
been surprised at any of the, or maybe not surprised, sadly not surprised, I don't know, of the stories you've gathered from the women you serve? Were you're like, I had no idea it was like
I
this?
think we're surprised by the magnitude, the scale of the suffering and the universality of this experience being really, I mean, less than optimal is an understatement, obviously, but really tragic out there for a lot of women.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most
Divorces.
satisfying part of starting Alloy is being, first of all, having the privilege of listening to those stories and hearing women and getting them to feel like themselves again. The stories of, I mean, certainly not enough women yet. I think it's still under 2% of women are getting menopausal treatment for menopause, which is just insane. But when you do get to hear those stories of like, oh, I don't feel crazy anymore. I feel like myself again. My husband and I are getting along. My sex life is better. I feel better. I feel like myself again, which is also just so gratifying. And on the one hand, it's daunting because there's so many more women who need this care, and on the other hand, it's really satisfying. But no, I don't think, to Monica's point, we even knew, and we were starting a company to fix it. I was ditching a career to do this. That's how we knew it was a really big problem,
Yeah.
but still, we've been surprised by the magnitude of the suffering out there.
Well, you know what? I think people would understand, and that you were a storyteller moving to a career to tell a different kind of story, but I bet they thought you were crazy. They're like,
Oh
you're
yeah.
what?
Well,
Oh,
especially
tell the story of
I didn't grow up in the fashion and beauty world. I started out at a literary magazine, and then I spent 10 years at Vanity Fair. And it just so happened that the leadership roles that I was looking for were in women's magazines. So I was editor-in-chief of Brides magazine for a hot minute, and then editor-in-chief of Marie Claire, both of which propelled me into the world of beauty and fashion. Obviously, Marie Claire more fashion. But so when I started telling people that I was going to leave, or that I had just left or was going to leave to start a menopause company, a good friend of mine in Paris said to me, but Anne, she was horrified. If you start a menopause company, people are going to think you're in menopause. And I could not actually encapsulate better the need to normalize this conversation. Like, yeah, That's the point. And the more we say it, I didn't even know at that point it was perimenopause, but the more we talk about these symptoms, it's like when Brooke Shields started talking about postpartum depression years ago, the more people who recognize themselves, that aha moment and that look of relief you're talking about in those rooms, Vonda, of like just being able, just recognizing yourself in someone else's story is actually like therapeutic and the beginning of, you being able to at least verbalize and then move on getting yourself the help that you need.
Absolutely. So, coming from your own health story, from your own identity and storytelling, you formed Alloy, which has a unique model, only uses doctors, allows you to receive healthcare on your own time. Just describe for my audience who don't know how it works for you.
So it's really quite simple. We've created, taken something that's very, very confusing and boiled it down to the simplest solutions. And so you would come to the Alloy website, you choose, you go into the intake form and you give us the information that's relevant about your health. We have a pretty thorough intake form, and that form is immediately you are connected directly with a doctor who's licensed in your state through the asynchronous platform. That doctor will work with you via messaging as long as you'd like. You can ask as many questions as you like. She'll put together a treatment plan recommendation. You see the treatment plan and decide which parts of it you would like, and then we ship it to your door, which is, if anyone's ever waited in line at the pharmacy, is a nice piece of the convenience part of this, because we know that women are probably taking care of more than one person's healthcare, an aging parent, spouse, child, whomever, pet. Pet's health also comes before us, apparently. And so we really wanted to make it as simple and convenient, and you can do it in the middle of the night from the convenience and privacy of your own home and never have to leave to get the solutions.
I think what was also important and really coming out of our own experiences was to make it inexpensive, efficient, not, we don't accept insurance because it's $50 one-time fee for access to a doctor, an actual real doctor, OBGYNs, primarily. And when we built the doctor, sort of the group of doctors also, there was no kind of doctor network out there that even had any women's health, anyone who had any experience with women's health. So we really had to curate that group ourselves. But for this one-time $50 fee, so you know exactly what you're paying up front, you get unlimited access to the doctor for as long as you're a customer of Alloy. So if we ship you some of the medications that you choose, and that could be menopausal hormone treatment, that could also be estrogen, topical estrogen skincare, that could be weight management, that could be sexual health. We offer lots of things. We really started with providing that access to menopausal hormone treatment, but we've obviously expanded out to other things that women are looking for at this stage of life. But it's very transparent. I know from when I was, really managing my family's care in the US system, the number of times that my doctor bills went into collections from the insurance company because I hadn't paid the bill on time and filled out the claim form. It wasn't because I couldn't pay the bill, although honestly, I was always surprised by how high the bills were. And so it would kind of freak me out. I'd put it off and then I'd go into collections. And this happened time and time again, year after year. And so that was a whole job in and of itself that landed on my plate that I didn't want to do, that I was doing for my entire family. And we really want to change the system. Like we have this opportunity to create sort of a blue sky, like what is the best possible healthcare experience that you can have? It's easy, it's simple, it's trustworthy, you get what you need and you're out, like you don't have to, you have a long-term relationship. You can always ask questions to the same person back and forth. You're always going to get to the doctor. You don't have to go through the whole phone tree. You don't have to wait another year to get an appointment to change your dose. Like it's really, because the other thing, as you know about menopausal hormone treatment, is that the first dose that you get may not be, or the first form factor that you use may not be the right one. I have tried every single type over the last 11 years and different doses, and it's very flexible, and people don't really realize that it does need to get personalized to how you feel the best. There's not one specific dose that's the right dose or the right form. It's what is right for you, and that takes time. And it takes some management and a relationship with the doctor to be able to go back and forth and ask your questions. And so we really want to be a long-term support for women to get their questions answered, to get the form and the dose that feels right for them, and to be there over the long haul to really be their trusted kind of advisor.
Well, and what in addition, because I want to talk about the services you offer in my experience, but the the reality is, think about how much time you're buying back for women.
Yeah.
I talked to Dr. Men on text talking about all the things. Whereas if I were going to show up in her office, I'd have to get off work. I'd have to drive. Well, she's not in the same city as me, but if I
It's a really long drive for you, but we get.
Yeah.
And by the way, you'd have to wait 6 to 8 to 12 months to even have that privilege of getting in.
Yes. And then you sit in the waiting room because doctors are busy. I mean, by the time we're done, it's a half a day versus, you know, I'd like to try the new eye cream. Can we talk about that? Blah, 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 right? So you started out mainly with menopause hormone therapy, with estradiol, progesterone, and you really have expanded to the whole health of a woman. And so the first step after was it the facial study you did, or was it the metabolic health pathway that you're on? Which one?
Skincare first.
You do both. You do both.
Yeah.
We do skincare, we do weight, we do hair, we do microbiome. But it definitely was, skincare was our first real foray into diversity. Monica has to tell that story, but I will just say that at our core is always care of a midlife woman. And we started off by solving her pain, right? Solving the acute symptoms of menopause. And then once you start to feel like yourself again, then we started hearing from our women like, hey, you know, now that I feel myself again, I'd like to have better sex, or I'd like to have, I'd like my skin to not be crepey and thin. I'd like to lose some weight. And so we basically sort of started building out various pieces of her care, really listening to her. And so we always say we started by solving her pain, then we wanted to spark her joy, and now we've moved into helping her thrive. And Monica's story about how she discovered our skincare is priceless. You've got to hear it.
Tell us, Monica.
Well, it begins with my incontinence, peeing in my pants, but I will take a quick step back just to say that estrogen, yes.
No, I was just going to say, I'm so glad you're so authentic, because 80% of women have difficulty with stress incontinence due to midlife or having had children or a variety of other reasons, and no one says anything.
I know. It's tragic. So this is why we're having these conversations. This is why we exist. This is, we talk about vaginas and clitori and all the things all the time. And if you don't say it, then it does have a big shameful. I did not love peeing in my pants. Let's just put it like that, though. And I knew. So estrogen receptors are everywhere in your body, including your skin, for men and for women, by the way. And of course, when you lose estrogen in menopause, you lose it everywhere, including your skin, which is why women's skin starts to look more aged, get more dry, become thinner, more crepey, more prone to wounds that don't heal as well, et cetera. And we know this, it gets worse over time. This is something that's progressive. And we also know this from vaginal estrogen, because that is what vaginal estrogen cream does. It preserves your vaginal skin. It supports your bladder, which who knew, but actually your bladder is extremely estrogen sensitive. And I had been taking systemic estrogen for years by the point that I got incontinent, and had never really had the estrogen, the genitourinary syndrome or symptoms of menopause at that point. And I accidentally got a prescription that was half my normal dose and started taking less than I would normally had for like 8 years for a few months, and literally lost control of my bladder. Like the moment that my brain said, oh, I need to pee, I had pee in my shoes. And this happened to me at the supermarket, in the shop, in the parking lot.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Oh my effing God.
Exactly.
I know what the problem is now, but this is terrible. And I wasn't in the United States at the time. So I live in the Netherlands, I work in the US, and so I needed to get a local prescription. And I was luckily able to, after going to 3 doctors who told me also only to use vaginal estrogen for 3 weeks, not more, which is all wrong information. So this WH, like the information everywhere is wrong. Anyway, I got a prescription for vaginal estriol cream. I used it for a couple of weeks. Everything was perfect. My symptoms went away. I stopped peeing in my pants, and I was like, this is unbelievable. And luckily I do what I do. I know what I know. And I was like, now I really see how it supports skin and what it does for skin. What would happen if I put this on my face? And I took a photo, I snapped a photo of my face, I put some vaginal cream on my face, and I started doing that every day. And 2 months later, I took some more photos, and the difference was unbelievable, like absolutely remarkable. And I showed it to the team, and I was like, how great is this that we're in a position to actually be able to create this? I mean, the vaginal cream itself is not a nice texture. It's not made for your face. It's not a good cosmetic treatment. And so we reformulated with our compounding pharmacy and created a face cream. And we did a clinical study on it to show, obviously there's more than ample research on vaginal estrogen cream. It's an FDA approved generic product, but there wasn't a lot of data on using it on other skin. And so we have now since done actually 4 clinical studies, all with blood testing that show that, at these doses also the estrogen, not that it would matter, but it does not enter your bloodstream. It just gets sucked up by the estrogen receptors in your skin cells that are so desperate for it when they've lost the estrogen. And so what's really super interesting, actually, and I've really kind of come to learn this more and more, is that your skin being your largest organ is actually something that needs to be protected, and because it protects you from the outside world. And so protecting your skin and improving your skin health is not just about looking better. That in fact is sort of the secondary benefit, but it's really strengthening, thickening, improving the elasticity and the resilience of your skin. That is really what this cream does, what topical estrogen does for your skin. And looking fabulous, which we do, is kind of like the secondary benefit. Funny story, I went to have a facial recently for the first time in years, and I asked the woman, how old do you think I am based on my skin, given that you see skin, every day? And I'm 51, and she said mid-30s. So I'll
the
take it.
skin.
Yeah. Exactly.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
you know what, I can, as a testimonial, I mean, I can really feel the texture difference.
Yeah.
Because I, like you, I before you had this special formulation, I'm like sneaking around using whatever form I can find. And it was my anesthetist. She's like, I don't know what you're doing, but something's working. And so thank goodness there's a formulation. And I can see and feel the difference. I have this little, I call it my sentinel wrinkle.
I love that.
When my skin's in bad shape, it gets bigger. And when it's plump and collagenized, and honestly, I'm as vain as the next person. It is about how I look, but it's more to your point that this layer of protection, and I didn't have to get cut, right? At this point, there's no cosmetic surgery, although someday there may be, but thankfully you've put it together. But the form of an in M4 is not estradiol, it's estriol.
Yep.
And that was probably a conscious decision, right? It's
the funny thing is, the reason why we went with estriol is that in Europe, the sort of FDA equivalent approved generic vaginal cream is made with estriol, which is a different form of estrogen. It's one of the 3 main types that's created in your body, but actually not in your ovaries. It's generally created during pregnancy by the placenta. And that is actually why pregnant women look so radiant.
They
because of the
glow.
flood of estriol. The thing is, the first clinical study that we did was a double-blind, placebo-controlled 3-arm study where we compared a placebo, just the cream base, to estriol to estradiol to see if one of the estrogens worked actually better in skin. And the estradiol works, they both perform sort of roughly equivalent. The thing is, though, that also most people take estradiol systemically. And so this sort of balances out, gives you another form of estrogen, although it really does only, it doesn't enter your bloodstream. We've done all of the blood testing with LabCorp over time in the studies, and not one participant had in any of the studies an increased level of estrogen or estriol or estradiol in their blood.
Well, and that is that for women that who are worried about the systemic level of estradiol gives an added layer of safety in the same way that vaginal estrogen, which we know is low enough dose, not safe for everybody, not absorbed mainstream. So it's that added layer. So when I'm sharing with people the way I optimize my hormones, they think I'm going to stop when I say, okay, so there's the systemic. Oh, but wait, that's not all.
Yeah,
Through
right.
the face and the vaginal. But
Because the systemic get most places, but they can't get everything. Like they don't do the extra
a
strength.
local treatment, right?
Exactly.
So you started with menopause hormone therapy, have expanded as you the women identified their needs into total body armor care of skin of the face and genitourinary system, but also the metabolic syndrome of menopause. Just like the musculoskeletal is real, the genitourinary syndrome is real, the metabolic is real. And now you've expanded into metabolic health and meeting the need of women who I gained 30 pounds, my cholesterol went off the charts, all those things. Do you want to talk a little bit about that expansion?
We will be expanding further in 2026, but for now we started and we certainly were not the first ones, but this GLP-1 revolution that's happening in managing weight and metabolic health is revolutionary. And we wanted to wait and see a little more safety data and wait and see what the right sort of form factor or formulation would be, sort of get past all the various ways where some people might have been selling us off the back of a truck. We really
That
wanted to make sure.
happens.
Yeah, it does. It happens in
Not a
the
trunk,
back. Yeah.
trunks of cars.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we as always, like our medical integrity and the, doing things according to the protocols of our clinical director and our director of innovation and education, Corinne Men, who you know well. So our clinical director is certified in obesity medicine. And we all work together to figure out, okay, obviously a huge complaint of menopause is weight gain and yes, cholesterol rising and, this whole sort of metabolic slowdown. And so after a lot of careful consideration, we did decide, and also because we did a survey of our customers, a lot of them were already taking GLP-1s from somewhere else and would have preferred to take them, as overseen by their menopause doctor. And so we added weight care, I think less than 6 months ago, maybe about 6 months ago. And it's been, always as an add-on to menopause, because again, our core problem that we're solving is menopause, but it's been extremely popular and people really like having it prescribed by their doctor who's also aware of their hormone therapy and skincare, et cetera. And there have been a couple of studies now, I'm sure you've seen them, that talk about the further efficacy of both MHT and GLP-1s when taken in concert. And that's just so exciting for all of us to really get to be able to really feel your best. And as you know, when you're feeling your best and you've maybe lost the 15 to 30 pounds that you couldn't lose for several years or even 5 to 10 years, it's more fun to exercise. It's like people are really enjoying their whole bodies in a way that they haven't in years.
Well, and when my patients are on GLP-1s and they're doing all the metabolic work, what they report to me is that the first thing that happens is the food buzz goes away. This
Yeah.
constant annoying, where's the chips? Where's the blah, blah, it's I
Do
mean,
the cookie, do I not do the cookie? Let's not do the cookie. I'm just going to think about it all day and not eat the
right,
cookie, but it's still going to be on my brain for 6 months. I mean, 6 hours. Yeah, no, it's really like people talk about sort of opening up brain space to be able to think about other things. And sometimes people find that kind of difficult. It's like, wait, it's 6 o'clock. I usually have like 1,000 snacks right now. What do I do with myself? Right. And for many, the answer is go on a walk or a run or go to the gym and lift weights or even just enjoy their, their spouse, their kid, their dog, just read a book, find other time for other activities. And that's the sort of the driving goal of Alloy is to, and all of us are taking care of women at this phase of life, is to get these things under control so that you can go be the best version of yourself and do things you've always wanted to do and not been able to because of either like infirmity or shame or you feel too fat to do some all these and certainly lack of sleep, all the things. Once those are under control, this is like the best time of your life ever. You can do things like start a whole new company, pivot to a new career, or even just enjoy yourself a little bit more. I think the other thing I would say about the metabolic piece of it is that it's the one thing that really like that yes, when I got into perimenopause, and I'm still, damn it, in perimenopause. I thought I was going to be in menopause, and then the 11th month came, and I got
Oh, how
freaking
dare you.
period. Like, ah, don't need this anymore. My cholesterol did shoot up, and getting on MHT and really taking care of my body really did help. But I think some of the most exciting stuff about the GLP-1 is the improvement in your cardio. I mean, your cardiovascular and your metabolism. My mother, as I said, died of a sudden heart attack at 73. She had terrible hearts in her family, and I mean, it's not just. I mean, her father died at 50 something. Her grandfather died at 52. Her brother died at 40. Like I come from a long line of bad hearts. And so being able to take care of, first utilize the protective nature of HRT or MHT for your cardiovascular health, and then also to be able to really improve your metabolic health this way is so important in terms of, I think it's you who coined the nursing home prevention plan and the ability to really actually thrive well into it's one thing to live longer than men, but we really want to be able to enjoy ourselves and thrive all the way till the end.
I think the important part about that also is that and you talk about this all the time, Vonda, is that there's no time like the present. And like literally, there's literally no time like the present because if you don't do it today, it's not going to be easier tomorrow. And all of this stuff gets progressive. So all of the discussion about longevity and health span, like you have to lock it in today and just make this a part of your going forward. Even there are women who tell me all the time, like, well, it's not that bad. I haven't had such bad symptoms. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not actually talking about what you're really optimizing for is not as much today as it is 25 years from now. And in 25 years, you can't come back to age 50 and fix it. So you have to really change your mindset. And that I think is actually one of the more exciting things about being this age is like you've had all this experience and sort of time to develop yourself to get to this point. But now is the first time. And if you have children, they're probably at least hopefully getting older and you have more money than you've had before and you have sort of more stability hopefully than you've had before. And so you have actually the same amount potentially looking forward as you've had up till now, but actually with agency, time, money, experience that you can use, but you have to really think about it at the moment and plan and be deliberate about how you want the rest of your life to be.
That's right. Because I always like to say that you are worth this daily investment now. Your life is worth it. So I want to thank you publicly. I thank you privately, but Alloy Health has always supported my work. You have supported the retreats we do for small groups of women. Last year, you supported the revitalization of a very big conference, Women's Health Conversations, in which we touched the lives of 500 women together. And this year, you are once again supporting our conference in November 14th and 15th. And so I'm just thankful that you have a heart for women. You put in the hard work to give us services and to give me services. And if in closing, are there a couple things or maybe one thing that you want women to know to encourage them that they may need to hear today?
Well, first of all, Vaughn, I want to thank you for all the work you've done and for really this new book about aging with power is just it's just amazing and helpful and empowering in a way that a lot of health books are not. And it's just really, really, it's a toolkit and your whole sort of entrance into longevity, which I know you've been in for a long, long time. Longevity is begins for women. There's this real ability to really make a leap into your longevity improvement by taking care of menopause. And so we have a great opportunity, and thank you for leading the way. I think if I wanted to tell women one thing, it's just that this is not the end at all. You are not alone. And if you get the help you need and that you deserve, and that we are all here trying to provide for you, then you can really thrive in this next chapter of life, which is so exciting, and you deserve that.
Absolutely. I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I absolutely want to echo Anne's gratitude to you. You've been hugely influential to me, as I've told you, just personally in terms of my own learning and constant curiosity and weight training. I feel like I'm in better shape now than I've ever been in my entire life. And really a lot has to do with watching you and others talk about, how important it is to do resistance training and to build muscle, and how, critical that is. And once I really that switch flipped for me, it changed everything. So I do 100% appreciate your work, and we're thrilled to support you and to work together with you. It's been a really wonderful experience. But I think, just sort of closing in terms of what we're trying to offer women at Alloy, from FDA approved hormone therapy to weight care to dermatologist approved, and like really effective, safe skincare, hair care, symbiotic. Like, we want women to feel covered, and we want them to feel that this is a great healthcare experience that they can, afford. It's convenient. They can do it from the comfort of their own home. And they can talk to friends about it and be open, and that this is not something that's embarrassing or unique to any of us. 100% of women around the entire globe will go through menopause, and it is a natural and really wonderful time of life, actually, if you take care of yourself and prepare for what's to come. And so, yeah, we feel really positive and hopeful about it, and are kind of loving ourselves and our lives right now, which is really nice. I wouldn't want to go back to being 25 or 30, actually. I love being 51. I love being where I am, and it's really about being the best version of yourself in this moment and looking forward. And that's, what we're trying to espouse.
I completely agree with everything that you guys said. So I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for you personally and professionally. And Anne and Monica, thank you for caring enough about women to take a total 180 leap and get in front of this for us and be a real leader in this field. And thank you for your time today on Hot for Your Health. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Vonda. We appreciate you. Right back.
Thanks for joining us on Hot for Your Health, where we bring you conversations from the bleeding edge of science, health, and culture. You can find links from today's show and connect with me at drvondawright.com. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Dr. Vonda Wright. See you next week.